So this is Tuesday, July 7th, not Tuesday, Friday, July 7th, 2023. I made it to what we call the Bass Lake, which is one of these three no-name lakes in Quetico that Jake and Corey and I think RJ and I had stayed one time. Caught a lot of bass in here, so I thought this would be a fun place to get to. I got to Canoe Canada at right around noontime from Duluth and got stuff organized and met with Shane to go over the route and make sure that everything sounded good, and then hit the shuttle. Got to Beaver House, I guess right around 2 o'clock. Yeah, that's right. And then paddled here. It took me about 3.5 hours. It's about 11 miles, I think. And right now it's a beautiful day. And we've had overcast, we've had blue sky, we've had sunshine, we've had wind. I don't know what the night's going to bring. There are some clouds in the distance. But it was sprinkling when I got here, so I put the tent up real quick. Got that all settled, and turned out I'd never had lunch or had a couple little tiny little muffin granola bars for breakfast. So I just finished eating a little peanut butter sandwich and some almonds. I think it's time to go do some fishing. That's a big fish. Set it up against me. That's dinner right there. That's the second one I caught. So we'll definitely take him in. That's number 6 in about 6 minutes. Number 7. There's dinner cooking. So this is still day 1. Dinner's over. I'm just relaxing here by the lake. It's incredibly calm. As windy as it was a couple hours ago, rolling in here, I had the wind at my back all the way down Quetico Lake. And it wasn't really whitecaps, but you had to kind of negotiate some of those waves because they were big rollers. And then I got into the little portage into here, and then it looked like it was going to be a thunderstorm, and the clouds were really dark. And that never happened, just a few sprinkles. So I was able to get in here and get camp set up and quick snack, and then went out fishing. All told, I think I caught about 8 nice sized bass within maybe 15 minutes and decided that was enough. So I went and cleaned the one, brought it back here and had it for dinner. Cooked up some Camp Chow cornbread, which was really good. We need to make sure I get some of that again. And now it's probably 8 o'clock or so. Thinking about cleaning up my camp a little bit and hitting the tent. It's been kind of a long day, starting at 5 o'clock this morning in Duluth. Just paddling out of our so-called Bass Lake, the no-name lake, just off of Quetico. It's 8:50. I can't believe how late it is. I've got a reasonable paddle today. Figure about 12 miles. So in theory that should be 4 to 5 hours of work. There's no pressing need to start early. But a beautiful day. Almost a cloudless sky. I slept pretty good last night. My new sleeping pad kind of halfway deflated in the middle of the night, and that wasn't as comfortable. It's small, and it's comfortable when it's inflated, but not so much when it's not. Anyway, I blew it up. The sun was starting to come up this morning. It's probably 5 o'clock, and I decided to stay in bed, and I actually stayed in bed till 7:30, I think. Again, very unusual, but it was a long day yesterday. Anyway, heading out of the Bass Lakes, portage is up there, heading into Quetico, and then heading east down to Jean and maybe points beyond this morning. These tall grasses are a haven for ticks. I found 4 crawling on me yesterday afternoon after walking through here. Oh, there's a little trip in the trail. Here's one of those little buggers crawling up me right now. Okay, it's about 11:30. This is Saturday. Just done the long paddle down Quetico Lake and down this way, about to turn south into Jean. A little bit of wind today, and interestingly it's from the east, so it's in my face a little bit. Some wind gusts, but no real waves, just a little ripple on the water. Beautiful, beautiful day. The wind is nice to keep the bugs down, and I'm paddling, and I was going to paddle to Jean before I took lunch, but then I saw this site, which just looked beautiful, and an easy landing for the canoe. So decided I'd come up here and have an early lunch / late breakfast. Got a fantastic kitchen. Nice flat rocks for cooking or sitting. Beautiful fireplace. And lots of rooms. You could have many tents here. A little bit elevated, which is nice. You get a nice view of the lake. So, and someone nice enough to put a bunch of kindling out. Although we're in a fire ban, so that doesn't help very much. Some pretty waterfalls between east end of Quetico Lake and the start of Jean Lake. I'll throw a line in here and see what happens. Sorry, little fish. Just wanted to get a picture of my first walleye of the trip. So it turned out that waterfall that I was fishing at actually was the portage into Jean. I thought it was further down, I guess, south. I discovered that it was actually right here. Sadly, I lost that really nice hook. Had a good fish on. I suspect probably a pike. And he leaped through the air and snapped the line. So I've been paddling back and forth across this waterfall area. It's a floating hook. So I was thinking if he kicked the hook out of his mouth, I might still be able to find it floating somewhere, but no luck. It's just paddling down Jean sometime in the early to mid-afternoon. This is a long lake that could get pretty windy, but this is so calm. So this is looking north towards Quetico Lake, sitting here on Jean Lake. Very, very calm night. Skies look like it's going to be calm tonight. Almost no wind. So, people count. I passed a group coming out of Beaver House Lake. When I was coming in, there was 3 adults. One looked like the grandpa and maybe mother and father, although the husband was kind of a foreign sounding German guy. Not sure if he was father or not. And then 2 little kids. I took one trip down and saw some of their gear down there, so I packed up one of their bags and paddles, and the German guy was like, I don't think those are yours. I said, no, they're yours. I'm bringing them up for you. He said, oh, no, I don't know the etiquette of canoeing. It's my first trip, so thank you. So they were very appreciative. After that, I haven't seen anyone paddling in 25 miles. I've seen 2 people camped on Beaver House. Today my people count is exactly 0. And it's weird. This is an area of the park that's pretty well traveled. Very popular part of the park. The parking lot at Beaver House was pretty much full, so I expected to see more people, but maybe they're more base camped and not traveling as much. And this is middle of July. It's perfect time to be out here, but it is sparsely populated. Today was a lot of paddling, and only that one portage coming out of the Bass Lake into Quetico Lake, and then it was hours of paddling down Quetico before finally taking the turn towards Jean and taking 2 short, one was 100 yards, the other was 200 yards portages, so almost no portaging. The one out of the Bass Lake was maybe 400 yards, something like that. So mostly paddling today. Got pretty tired. Most of my muscles are arguing with me. Lower back, arms, shoulders, even thighs. I'm not sure why the thighs are arguing, but they are. Tomorrow, I'll be heading down Jean, down towards a creek. That'll have 3 portages. Head down towards, I think it's Snow Lake and Your Lake, and then hopefully take a creek, and I'm blocking on the name of that creek right now, down, maybe it's Trail, down towards a couple smaller lakes, ultimately, maybe it's Bent Pine Creek, ultimately getting to Sturgeon Lake. Well, it's Sunday morning. Woke up with the sound of wind coming from the south, I think. But doesn't look like it's too bad on the water. But I think we might have some weather coming in today. So I didn't waste too much time. I was up a little after 5. Made some coffee and had a little cereal. And packed up ready to go. It's a little after, no, it's probably 6:40 now. That's a big bass I just caught this morning, Sunday morning. Biggest one of the trip. That portage didn't go quite as planned. That's the problem with wearing a hat. I'm ducking under this tree, and I think I'm clear, and I slammed right into that other branch. Knocked me flat on my butt. This is paddling up Jean Creek, just after the first portage into this swampy lily pad strewn creek. This is the second short portage on Jean Creek. No more than probably 30-40 yards. So the last of the 3 little portages into, well, out of, where was I? Out of Jean Lake into this no-name lake I was able just to walk the canoe up without actually having to portage. I'm in some pretty good sized lake with no name. All of that left shore more or less. And then one portage into Boulder Lake. Scouting the trail. I can't see a definite trail, but it looks like these grasses are a little bit beat down all the way to the shore. So I'm going to say that's probably where we need to be. It looks like it is on the map. Portaging out of Boulder. I think I might have missed the turnoff in the portage, because I ended up slogging through this super narrow swampy creek, mid-thigh deep. So this can't be right. Well, I'm actually paddling down this narrow little slit of a creek. Definitely a good idea at this point to have gone back, got the canoe and loaded up the gear. Wow, this was a navigational challenge going down this creek. The trail disappearing into a little waterway and following that till it dead ended way over there. Looked for a trail, there wasn't one. Looked at the map and decided need to backtrack, and turned out the creek kind of split. So came up to this dead end, big beaver dam along there, pulled up, and you can actually see a clearing where the other lake is, but could not really find a trail, so just kind of crashed through the woods almost to the lake and then cut sideways and came across this kind of ill-defined trail. It gets better defined as you get closer to the lake. So my canoe's there, it's not too bad, it's pretty close. So I'll start taking the packs over now. So I'm paddling down your lake. This will be my first major navigation faux pas. I was supposed to let's see if you can see it here. Coming out of Boulder, can't really tell if it's focused there or not. I was supposed to come and make a sharp left-hand turn around that little peninsula to head this portage, and somehow I ended up way down here. Not quite sure how that happened yet, but it's probably maybe 3 mile back and forth error. I was getting pretty tired. I'll stop somewhere along the way, maybe over here or something for lunch. So probably from being tired and not paying enough attention, whatever, but I'm way down here at the other end of your lake. So I just finished the portage into snow. It was actually a nice trail, but I'm so exhausted I didn't appreciate it very much. Mostly it's a nice walk through the forest, some boulder fields to walk through. Would be super muddy if it was wet, but not today. A couple little ups and downs, but really a nice trail, almost 3/4 of a mile. And at this point, I'm just exhausted. My plan was to go several more miles today, but I'm not going to. I checked the map and there's a campsite up there on the left and maybe on that island, although that island looks burned. I'm not sure I want to stay there. But I'm going to find a campsite and call it a day. Well, I paddled all around Snow Lake trying to find a place to camp. Went all the way to the southern end, but it's all burned. Any place that was a campsite, I'd be afraid of trees falling on me, dead trees. I found the little channel into the next little part of Snow Lake that heads off to the portage, and that's going to be a super challenge. It's all weed grown and muddy. And then the wind picked up big time. So I decided to come back to this shore, find the campsite that they said was here, which I did. It's a rudimentary little campsite. It's got a few suspect trees. I decided not to camp around that one. These ones here fell over another tent pad, so I ended up putting my tent kind of in the woods. It's probably about 8:30 now. I saw some weather coming and ducked into the tent a little after 5. Did some reading on the Kindle and listened to the thunderstorms come in. They were pretty dramatic, huge thunderbolts. You could see lightning even through the tent. And then pretty good rain, but at least I was dry inside. You can see how much water collected in the canoe. So this is the Monday morning I woke up to. After I went to bed, after my nap when it was crazy thunderstorming, I got up and had a quick little dinner and then started to sprinkle again, so I went back to bed and read for a couple hours. Woke up probably midnight and it was pouring down rain again. Rained most of the night. Not much of a heavy downpour at that time, but raining constantly. Enough so you didn't want to get out of bed to go investigate anything. So, woke up this morning, it was 5:40 and the rain had stopped, and I come out. It was pretty windy this morning at that time, but now the wind's gone down. I'm seeing sunshine. So this promises to be a nice travel day. Let's see how we do. So starting the morning paddling south on Snow Lake. Everything on the south shore has been burned. That's what I looked at yesterday. Trying to find a place to camp, and there's no way. I don't know if you can see that pink flower growing up in the middle. Maybe that's fireweed that they talk about coming in after a fire. I'll have to look at that when I get home. Portage should be right up there. I looked at it yesterday, found a little creek that I didn't really want to paddle through, but I also saw some flagging tape where I think the actual simpler portage might be. So I crossed that one little portage on the south side of Snow Lake, and this is way overgrown with new growth. It's popped up since the fires took over. I don't know if that was 3 or 4 years ago, but the whole trail is marked with flagging tape. I guess because it's hard to find a trail in here. So that's actually pretty appreciated, even though it's not leave no trace. Fun things happen. Finished the portage. I was about half mile down that way. So this is very ethereal, paddling through this burn area. I need to take a video of this. Reached down for the camera and the camera was gone. Now the good thing was I had videoed the portage trail, so I knew it had to be somewhere on the portage trail, so I paddled all the way back here. Actually missed the portage trail. Ended up down there another 300 or 400 yards before I figured out I'd gone too far. Came back here, and there it was, sitting in the shore, right where I'd bent over to put the orange pack in the canoe, or one of the blue packs in the canoe. Bent over, and it's been sitting in this vest with the crappy little Velcro that doesn't really fit, and the Velcro is very weak, and it's fallen out a couple times. The bothersome thing is I've got my spot on the other side, same deal. I wonder if I should relocate that because that's even more important. But anyway, got the camera back. Okay, this is paddling down Trail Creek. I'm hoping this creek holds up. It's pretty shallow and narrow, but there's no portage marked on the map, so hopefully it's a clear water all the way through. Now it's opened up a little bit. There was a little beaver dam right behind me that I thought may be causing low water, but it had already been broken through. I don't think that's what the cause was. This is Trail Lake. Interesting. Now, some areas are burned completely, some areas are completely intact, and some areas, like over here, the birch trees off of the lake are perfectly healthy and all the pines at the lake are burned. Steam coming off the water. Pretty sure this is where the portage starts into the next lake. Terrible access from the lake. So I crashed through that brush on the lake and followed that trail up, and it clearly just turned into a moose trail. So I paddled further down the lake and found this much more obvious trail. I'm on the portage to Bent Pine, came across this. Artifacts. Maybe a barrel stove, some sort of heavy metal gear. There's artifacts all along this trail. Big metallic cylinders, heavy iron. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like a stovepipe. Undoubtedly from logging industry in the many decades ago. Second pickerel of the trip. Gonna have to go home because it's too early in the morning to save you. So a couple portages ago, maybe last one, I had the bright idea. I had my fishing rod and hook latched to the front of the canoe, but the hook kept getting tangled up in the bow line. So I thought, well, I should just put it at the back, which I did on the last one. But then as I was portaging down, I heard bump, bump, a bump, a bump, and I knew that rod was getting hammered around, but I still heard it back there, so I thought it's all fine. But then I get to the end of the portage and look at the rod and there's no line. And I thought, well, the line must have snapped somewhere on that trail. So I go walking back and I find the line. Basically it had come completely out of the reel, and walked halfway up the portage and found the hook. So retrieved the hook and the line, and then tried to figure out how to get the line back on the reel, which I did pretty well. I ended up tangling a little bit, but I still got quite a bit on the line, or on the reel. So probably enough to do some shallow fishing at the least. First almost ripe blueberries I've seen. Foraging for food. I come from way down there. This is Sturgeon Lake. I started with a nice little riffle of waves. It's turned into these nice surf. It's a 2-foot rollers. More or less at my back. A little bit from the south or the southwest. I'm heading pretty much north. So slightly quartering. But I needed to take a break. It's probably close to 1 o'clock. I was trying to find a campsite. If I found a campsite, I would have just stopped for the day. But I don't have any campsites marked on my map. So I found this piece of rock. It'll do for now. And we'll see what happens. So we paddled on after lunch. A little trouble launching, so it's parallel to the waves. It's kind of fun. Then this is what I've been paddling in. It's surfing. So the wind was at the back, so that helped. So more or less just riding the waves and making sure the bow didn't get underwater. So the first campsite I find, I'll stay in. Then I find this. Oh my gosh. It's going to be super windy. Hard to hear, I imagine. They've got a nice white sandy beach. Goes on and on and on and on. It's near a little spit of land. Way over there you got a cook center. And there's 50 different places to set up a camp here. Beautiful pine trees. Reminds me of that site on Dory Lake that I like so much. So yeah, I'm super happy with this. If I get windbound tomorrow, I'm not going to be unhappy with the campsite. So camp is set up. This site is enormous. There's actually 2 kitchens that I've seen so far. I went to the northern side where there's almost no wind. You can see the lake here. It looks beautiful, protected by the landforms around it. On the other side, it's still like the ocean. So it's 3 o'clock. It says I'm at 58 miles for the trip. I started this morning at 42, so that's 16 today. Some of which were those PPMs, pointless paddle miles. Again today, 0 people. This is pretty unusual in the peak summer season. I saw some people on Beaver House Lake. A couple people camped, and one party of 2 that were actually taking the portage from Quetico to Beaver House. So they were on the Beaver House side. Since I've passed that portage, I've seen 0 people. So after a very pleasant afternoon, wind's changed. We've got some storms coming in. Just getting ready to make dinner, but tried to set up a tarp, really crappy. That's not going to help very much. Oh gosh, I got to get into town. That crazy wind, black skies, rain everywhere. This is like 10 minutes later. That's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I thought we were going to have rain all the rest of the night. Anyway, got out of the tent. I decided I was too embarrassed to leave the tarp the way it was. So that looks a little better. I didn't quite have the tree set up to have 4 corners tight, but I used rocks on the ground. Lower in the front against the wind. Almost head height in the middle, so that's not too bad. So first on the menu tonight is some cheesy fry bread from Camp Chow. And then we're going to do the spicy chicken curry rice. This is my site on Sturgeon Lake. And there are my footprints, but also big moose footprints. So I might have a moose walking by in the middle of the night. Okay, it's Tuesday morning. Probably about 9 o'clock. Been paddling for a couple hours. I'm in the Sturgeon Narrows right now, kind of out of the wind. When I started from that sandy island, there was no wind, but as soon as I got into the main channel, it was rolling waves and gusts. Not near as bad as yesterday afternoon, but still a little bit fun to paddle through. And then you get to another area where the water was blocked off by landform, an island or peninsula, and then it'd be calm, sort of like it is right now. But I'm about to get into the main part of the northern half of Sturgeon Lake, right around that corner up ahead, and need a couple-mile paddle straight north on that, and then I want to head over east towards Oliphant and then over towards the B chain of lakes. So I decided to stop at a little island here right before I get to the main part of Sturgeon, the north half of Sturgeon, and get a little breakfast. And I found this is also like a blueberry island. Everywhere you look, there's blueberry plants, and they're just starting to come ripe. So, good choice for a breakfast spot. I hate it when I take videos of the lake after a ridiculous passage. Looks like nothing. This is a little bay off of Sturgeon, but that was a harrowing paddle. The waves were bad, but not ridiculous. It was compounded by huge gusts of wind that tried to push you parallel to the waves. It was exhausting. I snuck into the south side of, well, first off, the wind was at my back the entire morning. First 6 miles. I figured when I got to Sturgeon it'd be the same thing, because they're going essentially the same direction. But I get to Sturgeon and it's in my face. Well, as long as there's not wind, I don't mind paddling into the waves. Actually, it makes me feel more secure than having the waves at my back. You can see what's coming, you can direct it, but the waves plus the wind that try to push you around, it was super difficult. So I snuck into the south side of Blueberry Island for about a 5-minute rest, and then looked across. I had to go kind of parallel northeast, and it didn't look too bad, and I ended up going essentially due north and then tacking back this way. When I finally got to the protection of some of the islands up there, then it wasn't quite as bad. But I think it's been a 10-mile paddle already this morning. I'm pretty tuckered out. I actually thought about rerouting up to Dew River and Dory Lake just to relax a little bit, because I wasn't sure I could get to this portage. But after we got to the protection of those islands, it looked like I could get here. So this is the portage to Oliphant. So the trip continues. This is part of the Pickerel River coming into Oliphant. I found this rudimentary campsite. Very rudimentary. There's room for one tent. Maybe a better place up here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. There is a little bit of a path. So this is the portion of Pickerel River that I'm camped on. With a name like that. I decided I should go fishing, so they stood here at the fast water and cast up there. Got about a dozen serious strikes, reeling in, and they got off. And then I picked up 3. One, a little guy, maybe 3 inches. One less than a pound. And then this guy, who's a good eater. So I cleaned him up for dinner. Here you have walleye nuggets, fish tacos. Good morning, it's Wednesday. I woke up early this morning, it was a little after 5. I went ahead and got up and got everything packed up, ready to go. My coffee's ready. Just finished packing up the bags. It's probably 5:30, 5:40, but I had to take a picture of this sunrise coming up. The mist on the lake. I went into the tent early last night. It was probably a little after 6 p.m. Just because the black flies. I haven't had any black flies the whole trip except for yesterday. Except for getting onto Oliphant Lake, in fact. But they were just nagging me, biting my ankles, and they wouldn't be put off by any sort of bug deterrent that I put on, so finally I just went to bed. Did a lot of reading. Slept early, woke up, read some more, slept again, but obviously very ready to get up this morning. The plan is to head off to the Bee Lakes. I'm not sure which one, we'll just kind of play it as it goes. I've got 3 more travel days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then plan to camp someplace close to Mim Takeout Friday night for a short paddle out. Every canoe trip I have to have at least one dunking. I think the last one maybe I didn't, but I was just getting in the canoe over there, had all the gear loaded, went to step in with my right foot and my left foot slipped out from under me on a slippery rock, and I fell on my butt, waist deep in the water. So that's not a good way to get in. So then when I tried to climb in, I was waist deep, and I guess my balance was not good, but I got my right foot in, but then everything, I don't know, my cattywampus. And the whole canoe flipped over, all my gear is floating in the water, just beside that waterfall, so had to get everything out on the shore, lift up the canoe, dump the water, resituate it, and then I realized my fishing rod, which is right there, that was strapped to the canoe, was no longer strapped to the canoe, and I couldn't see it in the water. So I had to wait 10 more minutes for the muck to clear after I was scurrying around in that water, and I finally found it. So now we are officially on our way. I finished it's about a 0.7 mile portage. This is on the Pickerel River. Very impressive rapids and waterfalls in here. So I'll stop along the way to video some of that. I took the heavy pack over with the paddles and decided I don't want to be soggy and wet and miserable all day, so I went ahead and stripped down, hung my wet clothes out to dry. I figure it's going to be 45 minutes or so they have to dry, as long as this portage is. I made triple portage some of this, just because I want to stop off and take some video, and it might be easier to not carry a pack and a canoe at the same time. But anyway, I'm in dry clothes for now. Let's hope it stays that way. And off we go. This is just upstream from that big waterfall I just videoed. And if you hadn't had someone like a Jim Clark warn you the first time we came through here many years ago, you're not done yet. Looks like you're done. But you're only about 20% done. You got to keep on going, because there's more to come. There's another little whitewater area. And still we portage. This is the upstream end of Pickerel River. coming out of Fern Lake. So this is Fern Lake. There's one of the island campsites. There's the other one. I can actually see a tent on that one. And over in the distance, coming up the way I just came, barely you can see a red canoe. So finally, my first 2 people since Friday. I gotta tell you, the black flies are a pain in my leg. But I got that one. I just paddled over behind me to see the Bonhomme/Sauvage portage. I was wondering if that might be red flag taped like the one in Snow Lake, but actually where the portage is, there's still lots of trees and you can actually see a trail. After a burn, the trail gets very difficult to find. I think that's why they red taped the other one. Further on south, I get this one too. Dead. Further on south, I suspect it might be worse because that's more where the fire was. You can just see a little bit of fire damage in the background. These are the rapids coming into Fern Lake from the beach chain. One more big fish. So I think I'm nearing the end of the beach chain lakes. I was going to make this a short day and just find a campsite here because I like how secluded it is and just nice kind of intimate lakes and land environment. But I'm being destroyed by the black flies. There's one eating his neighbor that I just killed. I've probably had 100 fly bites on my ankle in the last hour, and it's absolutely driving me crazy. When we look at my tracks on this lake, you're gonna say, this guy was out of his mind, what the heck was he doing? But number one, I wasn't in any hurry, I was just enjoying the day, but I wasn't paying attention to the maps. Most of the time I was swatting flies. So that's my excuse anyway. You'll see I've gone around in circles a couple times. But here's some little fast water coming up. I think that's a short portage into the last of the bees, and then because there's no wind, the flies are really bad. Normally you'd love no wind on a canoe trip, but I think I'm going to paddle up to Pickerel where there's, ow! Bound to be more wind. Okay, time to sign off and swat flies. Or blueberries. Blueberries galore. They're small, but they're super sweet. I'm looking for the portage into Pickerel, up to the dam. So I went right up to the fast water. Couldn't find it. Went a little bit downstream. Beached the canoe. Walked around, couldn't find it. So then I came way back here, and I see just a tiny hint of a trail there. I think that might be it. Far away from the rapids, not the normal site. Second major navigation error. I'm looking for the portage into Pickerel Lake. Been scouting up and down here for probably 3/4 of an hour. And decide maybe this isn't right because it doesn't look quite right. So I went over to river left here instead, climbed this rock and found an obvious trail. Then went back and looked at the map, and not the portage going into Pickerel, but the portage going from Bag to Bud. I'm not even in Bud Lake yet. And there it's clearly marked on the right hand side of the river. So this is Pickerel Lake. One of the hugest lakes in Quetico. Every time I've been on it, it's been a struggle to paddle. with wind and waves. Never seen it this calm. So I'm finishing up Wednesday. I did make it to the site that I planned, which is this narrow spit from the west side to the east side. Has given good protection from whatever weather we've had in the past, wind-wise at least. So if it was too windy over there, you could come over here and it'd be nice and calm. It's a huge site as far as walkable area. You could put at least 3 or 4 tents up on the hill there. I set up my tarp. It looked like we were going to have rain, but now I don't think so. So I got here about 1:30, set up camp, did all that, had lunch, and then read for a little bit, took a little nap, got up, read some more, just kind of recuperating. My back is kind of telling me things are not perfect right now, so I need to be a little bit careful, threatening to spasm a little bit, but not really, just a reminder. So a good day to take it easy. A couple other notes. This is Wednesday, and today I saw my first people since Friday. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That's 5 whole days. People free. That's kind of a perfect Quetico canoe trip. Well, it's Thursday morning. I woke up at my campsite and the water pretty much looked like this. Again, very unusual for Pickerel Lake to have such calm water, especially when you think about Sturgeon Lake 2 days ago being rolling 2-foot waves and tremendous wind. So I have 2 more paddle days. Initially, let's see if this can come into focus or not, but I was camped right there. Initially I was going to go straight up here, camp up here somewhere Thursday night. Friday take the Racer's Portage into someplace and kind of stealth camp somewhere in Nim. And then Saturday just a short paddle to the takeout. And I started that plan this morning. Went from here to about here. I thought, that's kind of a boring paddle through big open water, not much to see. And I thought, should I just cut through here, long paddle today up to Batchewan Lake, and then maybe camp somewhere in here tonight, and maybe somewhere in here tomorrow night, and then a longer paddle to get there by 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. And that's kind of, there's no one to argue with except yourself. So one part of me says, you don't know what the weather tomorrow is going to be like. Maybe you get to Batchewan Lake and you're windbound. That wouldn't be good. And the other part of me says, I really don't want to camp today at like 10 o'clock in the morning. And then what am I going to do all day? And I look at the weather and it's like, you know, I just gotta, let's go do some miles. So I headed west, and right now I'm about here, getting ready to head into Pickerel Narrows. So from here to here is where I am right now. And that's maybe a third of the way to where I want to end up. I've almost made it to Batchewan Lake. I'm in, I think it's Little Batchewan Bay right now, or Batchewan Bay. Had a little miscommunication between me and the map, so added a little extra paddling to be expected. The wind did pick up substantially from this morning, but even though I had to paddle into the wind for a lot of this, it's not very bad. The waves are not very bad. So I think it was a good decision to come this way. Beautiful trip. Beautiful scenery through the small channels. Much more fun than the big open water paddle. And it's been a long paddle. I don't know what time it is, but my body is saying it's about time. So as soon as I get through this little channel here, there's a small portage. I'll be in Batchwan Lake. I'll find a place to post up for tonight. So this is what the day has turned into as I was paddling into Batchwan. Super cloudy, low clouds, gray sky. Haven't heard any thunder. It looks like we should have some pretty good rain today. So, I turned over to a bigger map, easier to see. Paddled in through here, and I'm staying right at this little campsite, right at this little entrance into this protected area of Batchwan Lake. Should make it easy to paddle down there tomorrow, head over to the portage, and maybe find some place to stealth camp there on Nim Lake. All told, it was about a 15-mile paddle, no portaging at all. Started this morning at about 6:45 and got here about 12:15. Little fishing on the way, caught one really nice pickerel, and right after that a small one. But the nice one was probably 2.5 to 3 pounds. It was a good size pickerel. Well, it's Friday morning. I've got a short paddle today, maybe 5 miles, something like that. So time for fishing and exploring a little bit. This is the day today, hard to know. Is it going to be a rainy day? Or is it going to be like other days where it's like this and then the sun comes through and brightens up? Probably the latter. I don't hear any thunder or anything. So here's big Batchwan Lake. Weird how calm it is. So it looks like the Canoe Canada cabin on Batchwan Lake. Mara and I stayed there 21 years ago. My first trip into Quetico. Well, it's about 9:15 Friday morning. Get ready to leave Batchwan Lake. Did some fishing, caught a nice walleye here, so that's one more for the tally. So I'll cross over into Nim Lake, paddle for a mile or two, and find a campsite so I'll be close to the takeout. So this is Nim Lake, about 4:30 in the afternoon, Friday. Kind of the reason why I wanted to get close to the takeout. I'm about a mile away. Sadly, the takeout is that way, but that's into the wind, but that's today, right now. The waves are not too bad, but the wind is unbelievable. I've actually got the tent guide out to keep it from blowing away. So far it's holding up. Definitely would not want to paddle in this, and wouldn't paddle in this. But 12 hours from now, probably, or even 2 hours from now, might be calm as could be. It's almost 8 o'clock. I'm hoping the wind has actually started to die down now. It was an intense, furious wind for hours. I'm thinking 30, 40 mile an hour winds. And if it were to stay like this, no sweat. My tent held up, I don't know how, and it was almost lifting off the ground. The wind was so strong. But everything seemed to hold. I got myself in it again to anchor it down. That is not the moon. Weirdest sunset ever. Prayers answered. Saturday morning, probably about 5:45. I packed up camp. Gotta pick up that rope. Made some coffee and have a quick little breakfast and paddle over across the way. So I'm having a good time this morning. Beautiful, calm lake. So I paddled across, let's see, from right about here to here. And I saw this big green sign from the distance and said that must be the ranger station. So I know the dock where I'm going is to the left of there. So I paddled in through here, didn't find it, through here, didn't find it. Got away through here and said, this is absolutely not right. Then came back. Now I'm about here, and I look at that sign. It's like this flashing neon sign in the wilderness saying, this is the place, this is where you want to be. And I completely ignored it, misinterpreted. But I guarantee that's where the dock is. But it gave me some extra paddle miles, so that I topped 110 miles. So there is that. And it's only like 6:40 in the morning, so I'm super early. Humbling experiences. Makes you realize you're not really in control at all.